To thank all of its volunteers over its 10-year life, the Olive Tree hosted Voluntea. I had the opportunity to see what this event means for the community.
The Olive Tree is a local charity that helps the community by providing food and resources. Becky Schilly, CEO of the Olive Tree, says the Voluntea is to grow even closer to the community they strive to work for.
Getting to know our community better, our guests, our volunteers, our staff. We've created a little family here, and so that's probably the highlight for me. Definitely getting this building and becoming like a pillar downtown for people in need is also one of the highlights for me.
Voluntea gave the ability for volunteers to celebrate the 10-year anniversary and gave light to volunteers to share their personal experiences with the Olive Tree.
I read too much, and I was buying books when they were at the old location. And I came in here one day, just 2 or 3 months after they opened, and asked them, "Darlene, where are your books? We don't have anybody to do them. Do you want to?" So I did, and I've been here since.
The Olive Tree is constantly looking for more volunteers. If you're interested, email volunteer@theolivetreelloyd.ca. Cowan Dunlop, Primetime, local news.
Schools in the border city are putting an emphasis on teaching Indigenous culture and history. This week, a group of students from Rendell Park School made a trip beyond the classroom to learn more about our land. Here's Jace Mackey.
Grade 3 and 5 students from Rendell Park School are visiting Mount Joy for the day, but skiing is not on the agenda. The students are using the ski hill's summer trails for a lesson in nature and reconciliation.
Mount Joy is built on the Blackfoot Hills. There's a rich history for our Indigenous people here, and we just thought it was a really great idea to bring our students out here and be in nature and learn about our First Nations history right here in Lloydminster.
Over 100 students in land-based learning classes are taking part in a variety of activities to get a better sense of Alberta's natural environment and how our province's Indigenous people interacted with the land. One of the activities is an interactive hike.
They can scan those QR codes and learn about the natural vegetation and how they use different things like sage as part of their ceremonies. Then they get to the top and they're building a teepee up there and doing some teepee teachings and just ways of knowing. And then they also use the chalet where we have an elder speaking to kids right now about the history of Mount Joy and the Blackfoot Hills.
This field trip is part of other learning done in the classroom around reconciliation and Indigenous history.
We watched a lot of videos. We did some arts and stuff. We made shirts. It was all about reconciliation.
It was tiring, but it was really fun. We got to learn lots of things.
By taking this lesson beyond the classroom, staff at Rendell Park hope to give the students better context when teaching about Canada's Indigenous population.
Being out here on untouched prairie land just makes it a more real experience for our kids. So yeah, it's a big deal.
That's it for us this week, Beyond the Classroom.
Experience learning in action at the Lakeland College Open House on October 20th and 21st at our Lloydminster and Vermilion campuses.
And hump day is here, and boy, does it ever feel like Wednesday, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It was a cold day today in Lloydminster, and it's going to be another cold day tomorrow. Unfortunately, I may be saying the S word, snow, coming up here in our forecast overnight tonight across our region. There's a chance we'll see some, unfortunately, yeah. So we'll get into that, but there is some good news, so wait until the end of this one, and I might kind of leave you hanging. You might have to watch the next one to see some good news, but you can see today we're a little colder than our average for this time of the year. Unfortunately, our low today has a negative mark there, which is not very nice. We're below zero for our low, and we'll may be going below zero overnight tonight, so that's kind of why it may be some little bit of flurries that are coming down instead of rain, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So a little colder than the average for this time of the year, but pretty consistent, not too far off. Taking a look at what we're seeing here in Lloydminster currently. It was a windy day. That was something I didn't mention to Callan either. Coming in today, my hair really suffered. I kind of had to really take a comb to it when I got in the building. 37 kilometers an hour, slowed down a little bit, but it was windier in some other parts across our region as well. Saw some rain kind of scattered throughout the day today as well. Taking a look at what we're seeing out in Cold Lake. Cloudy day, 9 degrees in Cold Lake, but that wind is at 30 as well, so fairly windy in Cold Lake again as well. Now in North Battleford, a little warmer, 11 degrees, partly cloudy, partly sunny day. See, that's what I was talking about, a windier spot there. 43 kilometers an hour winds in North Battleford. Taking a look at across our central region, we can see things are a lot warmer in Alberta. Hottest spot is out west in Jasper, and as you head towards the border, starts getting a little colder. So you have 9 degrees here in Lloydminster as well as in Cold Lake. And then if I just shift over to this side a little bit, you can see it's a little colder on this side. Warmest spot on the map there is probably the one closest to the border, which is North Battleford, sitting at 12. Taking a look now at what we can expect overnight tonight here in Lloydminster. Like I said, things will be going below zero, so we'll be -1 overnight tonight. A kind of cloudy and windy evening in store for you. So sorry I don't have some better news when it comes to that. Moving on now over to Cold Lake, same story. It may be even windier overnight tonight, mostly cloudy and -1. Continuing now on to North Battleford. Good news, I guess, we're above zero, 2 degrees overnight tonight in North Battleford. Windy as well with quite a few clouds for your evening in that Saskatchewan city. Taking a look at our next 3 days here in Lloydminster, at least I can show you some sun over the next 3 days heading into your Saturday. And I was saying some good news for Callan. I think that Saturday is the good news for you there. 19 degrees as we head into your weekend. So it's going to warm up. We just have to get through the night tonight and the day tomorrow. 6 degrees for your day tomorrow, 14 and a cloudy day on Friday, and then 19 degrees on Saturday. So that's a win for us, I think. We're going to take a quick look at some viewer-submitted photos from our great friend Greg, who always sends so much into us. And maybe tilt your head a little sideways for this photo of Bright Sand Lake. Thank you so much, Greg, for sending this into us. And another one from a walking trail. Keep that head tilted. I am very sorry, Greg. I tried to get these upright, but I could not figure it out. So we're going to have to suffer through that. My apologies. But stay with us. I'll have more on that snow later on in the show.
Thank you, Jace. After the break, we'll see why an Alberta teen may be facing criminal charges after an incident at a hockey game.
Today I'm joined by Tammy Dick, the events administrator of the Lloydminster exhibition, and she is here today to talk to us about some of the upcoming events that will be happening in the Lloydex at the end of October. And so thank you so much for being with me today, Tammy.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start with the first event that's going to be coming up, the Feastival. Talk to me about how many years you guys have been running that and kind of the whole idea behind the event.
So this is actually the 13th year it's been running, even through COVID they did. It's a local thing. We get food from local, it's produced local, it's developed local, and then even our own Red Seal chef at the exhibition grounds, Jim Armstrong, he makes it, him and his crew, so his kitchen crew. We've got Elk Valley Farms from Kid Scotty is giving us some of the bison, as well as the Hutterite Colony by Manville. So it is all locally sourced. There's nothing that's from too far away.
Awesome. And so with the Feastival, the whole point of it is that it's from the farm that it's coming to the table. So
yes.
Talk to me, especially as an ag society, how important it is to show those local producers and bring their food and show some of the people from Lloydminster that are more city-based that wouldn't really know as well where their food is coming from and how important that is for you guys as an ag society with this event.
Well, for one, they have used some of these providers through the last 13 years, so they definitely have a relationship. We like to keep it where we know what we're getting, where it's coming from, and taking it right from them comes straight to us, and it's prepared so there is no middleman, there's none of that. It is right from their farm to our kitchen, and from there it's prepared and it's set out. So we know exactly where it's coming from, which isn't always the case these days, so yeah.
Awesome. And if people are interested in coming to the festival, what are the details of the date and where can they get tickets and how do they make sure that they can attend the festival?
So it does sell out very quickly. There's a couple ways you can buy. We have a online ticket sales through Ticket Spice, so you can go right to our website. You can type in lloydx.com/Harvest Festival, and it'll take you right to our event. From there, you just have to click a link, fill in your information, or you can come down to the office and you can buy your tickets right there. The event is October 25th from 5 to 7 p.m.
Awesome. And so that's right near the end of the month, and right away at the end of the month is Halloween, a very popular event, especially with kids around here in Lloydminster. And you guys have the Trunk or Treat. So how many years have you guys been running that? And tell me a little bit about the event in general.
So that one is actually the day right after Festival, so October 26th from 3:30 to 6:30. This is only the second year that it's been run. Last year was kind of a test year, and it not only surpassed any possible realm that they thought was going to happen. They were kind of expecting about 500 people, and they ended up with about 3,000 come through the door. So yeah, it's a great thing for local businesses again. You decorate a vehicle, whether it's, we have an ambulance coming, they decorate the ambulance, the kids can kind of take a tour through. Again, with our Canadian weathers, you never know what you're going to get, so it's a fun indoor event. Get a little bit more use out of those Halloween costumes. So yeah, it was no way that wasn't going to happen again when there was such a fantastic turnaround last year.
So I know that the event is free for kids and families to come to.
Yeah.
So, but if there are businesses that want to become a part of the whole Trunk or Treat and be one of the, I guess, booths, part of the whole thing, where can they go to find out more information and see if they can make their business a part of that here in the local area of Lloydminster?
So they can email me directly at the eventadmin@lloydx.com, and it is free for them to enter as well. All that they have to do is hand out, or whatever treats they provide, that's what they hand out, and that's the monies they're putting into it, plus the decorating of their vehicles. So it's free for them.
Awesome. And then looking a little bit forward, are there any big events that you are taking care of for the Lloydx that is coming after October, kind of into November, and some of those big events that you guys can just give us a little preview for going into November?
Stockade Roundup's coming up. There's also the PBR, which is another huge event for us. It's a one-day event. It would be my first. I've never been, as I'm new to the system, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've heard great things, just the vibe that it gives off. And then into the next year, we're looking at Agrivisions is a nice egg show. There's Everything Equine on the Border, a horse show. My two big ones coming up is for me, is those two for sure, is the Agrivisions and Everything Equine. So yeah, and then fair prep starts.
Yes, an exciting, so an exciting time there for the Lloydx. So yes, if you're interested, be sure to check out those two events finishing out in October, and the Lloydx will also be having many more events throughout to finish out 2022 or 2023, and we'll have plenty coming in 2024.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery, downtown Lloydminster.
We are back with another episode of Healthy Thriving Family After Divorce. Stephanie Dobson is with us once again, and Stephanie is a lawyer and mediator at Hanka Divorce Law and Mediation here in Lloydminster. Stephanie, thanks for joining us once again.
Thanks again, as always, Stacey.
Well, we have a unique subject to talk about today, and that is what happens to your pets when you're going through a divorce or separation. This is really a big issue because sometimes, I hate to say it, but people love their pets more than their family sometimes. So we're going to get into it and talk about custody. So what happens with a pet? Does it work like with kids? Can you set it up where you have custody of a pet just like children? I guess, how do we even broach that subject?
Good question to start with, Stacy. So, there's no such in the legal field. There's no such thing as custody of a pet, like you would call, the term, and we don't use the term anymore in the legal field, but custody of children. So, in the legal arena, a pet is actually considered to be what's called personal property. So, it's actually divided in accordance with the rules of property division, the same way I'm sorry to say, the same way like a bank account or a house or even a toaster and a blender would be divided. It seems very crass, I know, to think of our most loyal friends. Sometimes we can call them to be treated like that. But it's a very difficult thing to look at it that way. But that's the way that the law looks at it. So we're going to look today in our interview about just some different ways that we can look at things other than the pets, other than what we call property.
Now, does court have to get involved or can they get involved at some point when you're dealing with pet custody?
So courts can always get involved and they would treat it like a property dispute. So who is going to keep that asset? And we'll call the pet an asset, not a liability. So, and the question, of course, would be then who would be the owner going forward? So it's not necessarily about sharing the pet. It could be, I suppose, but it's more about ownership of that asset. So how does this ownership get determined? So there's lots of different factors, and this is just thinking about it from the point of view of if you had to go to court, what would a court look at? So, whose name is on the receipt for the purchase of that pet? Is there evidence that would suggest that the pet was gifted to one of the spouses? Or, even so much as when you go to the vet's office, who's the one that brings the pet into the vet most of the time? Whose name is on the account at the vet's office, or who generally takes care of that pet? We like to think that it's the kids that generally take care of the pets, but when we're talking about the adults, who sort of has that allegiance. So this list, of course, is non-exhaustive, but it does give you a flavor for what would be looked at if we're looking at it from a strict legal point of view, property division point of view.
Now, I imagine that most people don't want to take it to court if they don't have to when it comes to figuring out what should be happening with a pet. So, I guess, what are the other options if you don't want to go through court but still need to get this sorted out?
So, almost like a broken record here, I'm hoping that our audience is starting to get the idea that there are ways to keep really every dispute that you have outside of the courtroom. So there's options like mediation, collaborative divorce, trying to figure it out yourselves at the kitchen table. Of course, there is divorce court, but again, to try to keep it out of the court, you may want to try to get a professional involved. And when we do that, we want to try to find a mutually acceptable resolution. So it may not necessarily be one person keeps the pet or the other person keeps the pet. It might be somehow figuring out how to share that pet. I've even gone into sometimes where it's agreed that one person is going to keep the pet primarily. The other person will have the pet when the primary pet parent goes on holidays or can't otherwise keep the pet. They'll have the right of first refusal to keep the pet. But also there's the cost of the pet. So sometimes we look at one person keeping the pet, but both people sharing the cost of the pet or something like that.
So, if you don't have plans for separation or divorce, is it still a good idea maybe to plan for what should happen to a pet in the event of the fact that something happens with the relationship?
Well, I would say that this would be my advice for all couples, whether you have a pet or whether you have children, whether you have property that you're looking at putting together. It's always a good idea to plan for the future, whether you stay together or whether you end up separating, or whether one spouse ends up passing away. So the same thing like any other property or children, you might want to plan for your pets. So why not write down the intention when that pet is purchased? Right? If such a thing should happen in the future, any of those incidents that I mentioned, would you continue to share the pet or not? What are you going to do about major decisions around the pet? I know this is sounding like parenting a lot, but that's really is the case. What's the pet time sharing schedule? And then, of course, what about the finances?
All right, Stephanie. Well, again, a really great subject, something we haven't discussed yet, and what happens with pets and when people go through these situations. It's just sometimes one of those things that is not thought of. So I know that we talk about how your office can really get this all sorted out, no matter what the subject. So how do people reach you, Stephanie, if they are looking at needing to make these types of decisions, or the tough ones around actual relationships as well?
Well, I encourage people with anyone that they're going to go see for separation or divorce is to make sure, or even for planning for the future, like we talked about a moment ago, really important to do your research. We have lots of information on our website. So check out our website, hankadivorce.ca. On our website, we actually have the live chat feature that will send us an email and let us know that you want us to get in touch with you. Or you can give our office a call, 780-875-2234.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us once again, Stephanie.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Stacy.
We've got one more story before
One
we're
more to
all
go.
wrapped up today. This one's pretty interesting. The head of tech investment firm SoftBank is warning that artificial intelligence could surpass human intelligence in the next 10 years.
It's a little scary.
10?
10, yeah.
Speaking at the SoftBank World Conference, Masayoshi Son said he believes AI will become 10 times more intelligent than the total sum of all human intelligence. The head of the Japanese firm dismissed claims that AI cannot become smarter than humans because it's created by humans, noting the technology's self-learning and self-training capacities. And that's just,
It's a little scary.
It's a little scary because, I mean, you want to compare to how it was 10 years ago, and like AI was like barely a thing. Then we get to hear AI is a lot more involved. How are we going to see it 10 years from now?
Well, that's exactly the thing. I think it's improving so quickly
Rapidly,
and drastically. So imagine, 10 years from now, it's going to be totally different than it is now. Also, I want to give you a shout out for the pronunciation because you nailed that on his name as well.
Thank you. I didn't even look it up. I thought I did good.
Good job.
And that's all the time we have for you on Primetime Local News. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.
See ya.